Picture this, you're a working plumber showing up for another renovation job, toolbox in hand, coffee still warm. A megachurch in Houston, another wall, another day on the clock. You pull loose a panel, shine your flashlight into the dark space behind it, and your heart stops. Because staring back at you are envelopes. Hundreds of envelopes stuffed with cash, stacked like someone's secret vault just cracked open in front of your eyes. You're alone. No cameras pointed at you in that moment. No one watching. No one knows what you just found. The odds of stumbling into hidden money during a random repair job, astronomically slim. But here you are. And the choice you make in the next 60 seconds will change everything. This is the true story of Justin Cawley, a plumber who went to work one ordinary morning in November and walked into a mystery that had haunted one of America's largest churches for 7 years. A mystery worth over $500,000. A mystery that would put his integrity, his safety, and his future under a spotlight he never asked for. What he did next didn't just solve a cold case. It turned an accident into a $20,000 payday and taught the world a lesson about what happens when you do the right thing when no one's looking. But that's not even the wildest part. Stay with me, because this story has more twists than that wall had envelopes. And by the end, you're going to see money, morality, and consequences collide in a way you won't forget. Let's rewind. Justin Cawley wasn't hunting treasure. He wasn't chasing tips or scanning metal or pulling up floorboards for fun. He was a plumber, a working guy. The kind who shows up when pipes burst, when renovations need grunt work, when someone needs a problem fixed and fixed right. In late 2021, he got called to a job at Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas. If you've never heard of Lakewood, picture this. It's one of the largest megachurches in the United States, tens of thousands of attendees every week. A former NBA arena converted into a worship center, high profile, high visibility, the kind of place where cameras are everywhere and reputations matter. The church was going through renovations. Walls were being opened. Systems were being updated. Standard construction work. Nothing glamorous. Nothing that suggested anyone was about to stumble into a piece of history. Justin showed up with his tools, his work orders, his routine. No reason to think this day would be different from 1,000 others. The odds that a random plumber on a random job at a random wall would find something hidden. You'd have better luck guessing lottery numbers blindfolded. But luck isn't always about odds. Sometimes it's about timing. And sometimes it's about being in the exact wrong place, or the exact right place, depending on how you look at it. Because what Justin didn't know, what most people didn't know, was that Lakewood Church had a ghost, not the paranormal kind, the financial kind. 7 years earlier, in March 2014, the church reported a massive theft, about $600,000, gone. Cash, checks, money orders, donations meant for ministry work, vanished like smoke. Houston Police Department launched an investigation. Crime Stoppers of Houston put up a reward starting at $5,000. The church itself added $20,000 on top. People talked, theories swirled, but no arrests were made. No money was recovered. The case went cold. Years passed. The theft faded from headlines. Life moved on. Congregations grew. Renovations were planned. The story became a footnote, a strange unsolved chapter in the church's history that most people forgot about. Except the money never left the building. And on one particular day in November 2021, a plumber named Justin Cawley was about to prove it. Picture the moment. You're crouched in a workspace, maybe a maintenance corridor, maybe a utility room, dust in the air, the hum of HVAC somewhere in the background. You're there to access pipes, check a valve, maybe run new lines. Standard stuff. You pull at a wall panel, it gives. You angle your flashlight into the cavity behind it, expecting insulation, wiring, maybe some debris left over from the original arena construction. Instead, you see paper. Lots of paper, envelopes specifically, packed tight, stacked in bundles. Your brain takes a second to process. This isn't construction material. This isn't forgotten paperwork. This is cash. This is money, real money. And it's stuffed into a space no one was supposed to find. Justin Cawley later described the discovery in interviews. He said there were envelopes, many envelopes. Some reports put the count near 500. 500 envelopes hidden inside a wall in one of the most visited buildings in Houston. Let that sink in. 500 chances someone could have written a name, an address, a note. 500 pieces of evidence that this wasn't random. This was deliberate. Someone hid this. Someone knew it was here. And someone hoped it would never be found. But here's where the accident becomes a test. You're alone. You didn't go looking for this. You're not a cop. You're not a detective. You're a plumber doing a job. The odds that anyone would ever know you found this. Low, the temptation to pocket even a fraction of it and walk away. High, the internal debate that must have roared through Justin's head in those first seconds. Unimaginable, because this isn't a movie. There's no soundtrack, no voiceover telling you what's right. There's just you, a flashlight, a wall full of cash, and a choice. And Justin made his. He stopped, he stepped back, and he reported it. That decision right there set everything in motion. That's the hinge. That's the moment the accident became a story, because what happened next wasn't about the money anymore. It was about what the money meant, what it represented, and what it would cost Justin to do the right thing. The call went out. Houston Police Department, crime scene investigators, church officials. Suddenly the quiet renovation job became a media event. News trucks pulled up. Cameras started rolling. A plumber's name went public. Justin Cawley, the man who found the money. And just like that, his privacy evaporated. Think about what that feels like. You go to work, you find something, you report it. And within hours, your face is on the news. Your name is in headlines. Strangers are talking about you. Some are calling you a hero. Others are asking questions. What did he really find? How much did he take? Did he try to keep any? Was he in on it? The scrutiny is instant. The pressure is real. Because when money is involved, especially a lot of money, people assume the worst. They project, they speculate. And you, the person who tried to do the right thing, become the subject of a story you never wanted to be part of. But here's what the evidence showed. Houston police confirmed the discovery included cash and financial instruments, checks, money orders, items that could be traced. And when investigators examined those checks, they found something critical. The evidence pointed to the 2014 theft, the cold case, the $600,000 mystery that had haunted Lakewood Church for 7 years. This wasn't random money. This wasn't a forgotten stash. This was stolen property, hidden, waiting. And somehow, after all that time, a plumber doing renovation work had stumbled into the answer. The odds of that. Finding hidden evidence of a major theft in a building that size during routine work 7 years after the crime. You're talking needle in a haystack territory, except the needle was wrapped in 500 envelopes. Joel Osteen, the church's senior pastor, addressed the discovery publicly. The church cooperated with the investigation. Crime Stoppers of Houston reviewed the case. The original reward offers were revisited. The $5,000 Crime Stoppers reward. The $20,000 church contribution, which was later treated as a charitable donation to Crime Stoppers. And then came the announcement. Crime Stoppers of Houston publicly stated they would award Justin Cawley $20,000. $20,000 for coming forward, for reporting the discovery, for doing the thing most people say they do but never actually face the choice to do. But that's when it got real, because suddenly, Justin wasn't just a plumber who found money. He was a man who turned down a potential fortune and took a fraction instead. He was a man whose face was now attached to a high-profile case. He was a man whose decision would follow him for the rest of his life. And the question everyone started asking was it worth it? Here's the truth no one talks about when they fantasize about finding hidden money. The discovery is just the beginning. The consequences are what define you. Justin Cawley did the right thing. He reported the money. He cooperated with authorities. He walked away with a $20,000 reward, which, let's be clear, is life-changing for most working people. It's a new car, it's debt relief, it's breathing room, it's real money. But it's not $600,000, and everyone knows it, so the whispers start. The comments sections fill up. The Monday morning quarterbacks weigh in. Some people call him honest. Some call him naive. Some say he should have kept more. Some say he should have kept it all. The debate rages, and Justin's just trying to live his life. And that's the weight. That's the price of doing the right thing in public. You don't just make a choice. You become a symbol, and symbols get judged. Then there's the investigation, because the money was found, but the case isn't closed. Who hid it? How did it stay hidden for 7 years? were their accomplices. The Houston Police Department kept the investigation open, which means the story isn't over, which means Justin's name stays attached, which means every time someone writes about the case, his decision gets re-examined. There's also the question of safety. When you're publicly connected to a $600,000 theft case, even as the person who reported it, you're exposed. People know your name. People know your face. You become a target for opinions, for assumptions, for attention you never asked for. And let's talk about work. Justin's a plumber. His reputation matters. His integrity matters. In some ways, reporting the money was the ultimate professional move. It proved he's trustworthy. It proved he won't pocket what isn't his. That's gold in a trade job, but it also means he'll forever be the guy who found the money. Every job, every client, every time his name comes up, that story follows. It's a double-edged sword, credibility and celebrity, and most working people don't want celebrity. They just want to do their job and go home. So was it worth it? That depends on how you measure worth. If you measure it in dollars, 20,000 is a lot less than 600,000. But if you measure it in sleep, in conscience, in being able to look at yourself in the mirror without flinching, then maybe it's priceless. Because here's what Justin walked away with that no one can take: proof. Proof that when the moment came, when the temptation was real, when no one would have known, he chose integrity. He chose truth. He chose the hard right over the easy wrong. And in a world that's increasingly cynical, that's rarer than buried treasure. So what do we learn from Justin's story? What's the takeaway when you accidentally stumble into money that isn't yours, whether it's $5 or 500,000? First, understand this. The moment you find money, you're making a choice. And that choice has consequences no matter what you decide. If you report it, your name might go public. You might get scrutiny. You might get a reward, or you might get nothing. If you keep it, you're gambling that no one will ever trace it back to you. You're gambling that the paper trail, the serial numbers, the checks, the money orders won't lead to your door, and you're gambling with your freedom. Because here's the reality: most found money isn't actually found. It's lost, misplaced, or stolen. And the odds that large amounts of cash are sitting somewhere with no owner, no trace, no history, slim to none. If you keep it, you're not just taking money. You're taking risk. Criminal risk, legal risk, psychological risk. Justin understood that. He understood that 500 envelopes in a church wall weren't an accident. They were evidence. They were part of a crime. And touching them, taking them, hiding them would have made him part of that crime. So he stopped. He stepped back. He called the authorities. And that single choice protected him from years of potential consequences. Here's another angle: tax implications. Let's say you find money and you keep it. Let's say no one catches you. You think you're safe. But how do you spend it? How do you deposit it? How do you explain a sudden influx of cash without raising red flags? The IRS notices patterns. Banks file reports. If you suddenly start living beyond your documented means, questions get asked. And those questions lead to audits, investigations, and penalties that make the original temptation look foolish. Justin's reward, on the other hand, was public. It was documented. It was legal. It was taxable, sure, but it was clean. No sleepless nights. No looking over his shoulder. No wondering when the knock on the door would come. That peace of mind is worth more than any dollar amount you can't actually spend. And here's the broader lesson: integrity isn't about what you do when people are watching. It's about what you do when no one is. Justin was alone when he found that money. He could have pocketed it. He could have walked away. The odds that anyone would have known, low. But he didn't make the decision based on odds. He made it based on values. And that's the difference between a windfall and a trap, because accidental money isn't free. It comes with strings, it comes with questions, it comes with consequences. And if you're not prepared to face those consequences, then the smartest move, the safest move, the move that protects your future is to report it. Let the system handle it. Let the authorities trace it. And if there's a reward, great. If not, you walk away with something better, a clear conscience. That's not financial advice. That's life advice. And it's the kind of wisdom that doesn't fit on a bumper sticker, but it's the difference between a story with a happy ending and a story that ends in handcuffs. Now let's talk about the other side of the coin. What happens after you report it? Because Justin's story doesn't end with the discovery. It ends with the spotlight. And if you ever find yourself in a situation like this, you need to be ready for what comes next. Privacy is your first casualty. The moment Justin's name went public, his life changed. He became searchable. His decision became debate fodder. Strangers had opinions about him, and there's no taking that back. Once your name is attached to a high-profile case, it's there forever. Google doesn't forget. The internet doesn't forget. So here's the lesson. If you ever find something valuable and you report it, think carefully about how you want to handle the attention. You might be able to remain anonymous depending on the situation, but in a case involving a major institution, a cold case, and a substantial reward, anonymity is unlikely. Be prepared for your name to circulate. Be prepared for people to ask questions, and be prepared for some of those questions to be uncomfortable. Boundaries become critical. Just because you did the right thing doesn't mean you owe everyone the full story. You don't have to do every interview. You don't have to respond to every comment. You don't have to justify your decision to strangers on the internet. Justin had to navigate that. He had to decide how much to share, when to share it, and when to step back and let the noise die down. That's a skill most people never have to learn, but if a windfall thrusts you into the public eye, it's essential. Then there's the money itself. Justin received $20,000. That's a significant sum, but it's also a target. People know he has it. People will have suggestions for how he should spend it. Friends, family, acquaintances. Suddenly everyone has a cause, a need, a pitch. And the pressure to be generous, to share, to spread the wealth can be overwhelming. But here's the truth. You don't owe anyone an explanation for how you handle your money. Not even money that came from a reward. It's yours. You earned it by making a hard choice. And how you use it is your business. Smart play, keep it quiet. Don't broadcast your windfall. Don't update your lifestyle overnight. Don't post about big purchases. Because the moment people see you spending, they start calculating, they start assuming, and they start asking. Quiet wealth is safe wealth. Loud wealth is a liability. There's also the question of long-term strategy. $20,000 can disappear fast if you're not careful. It can cover debt, sure. It can buy something you need. But if you're smart, you treat it like a foundation, not a celebration. Pay down high-interest debt first. Build an emergency fund. Maybe put some aside for education, for a down payment, for something that increases your stability rather than your expenses. That's not exciting. That's not Instagram-worthy. But it's the difference between a windfall that changes your trajectory and a windfall that evaporates in 6 months. And finally, there's the emotional tax. Doing the right thing feels good in the moment, but it can also feel heavy when you're living with the aftermath. Justin probably replayed that moment 1,000 times. He probably wondered late at night what his life would look like if he'd made a different choice. That's human. That's normal. But it's also why integrity matters. Because the alternative, living with the guilt, the fear, the constant looking over your shoulder, is far heavier than any regret about money you didn't keep. Justin's story isn't just about finding money. It's about finding yourself in a test you didn't study for and passing anyway. It's about the cost of honesty and the value of character. And it's about understanding that sometimes the windfall isn't the money. It's the proof that when it mattered, you were the person you hoped you'd be. That's a prize no one can tax, no one can take, and no one can devalue, ever. So here we are, a plumber, a wall, 500 envelopes, a 7-year-old mystery, a $20,000 reward, and a choice that changed everything. Justin Cawley didn't go looking for a windfall. He went looking for a pipe. He didn't set out to be a hero. He set out to do a job. But when the moment came, when the accident happened, when the universe put him in front of a test most of us will never face, he passed. Not because it was easy, not because it was profitable, but because it was right. And that's the heart of this story. That's the lesson. That's the thing you take with you when you close this video and go back to your life. Because most of us will never find cash in a wall. Most of us will never stumble into a cold case. But all of us will face moments where we have to choose between what's easy and what's right, between what we can get away with and what we can live with. Justin chose to live with integrity. He chose transparency over temptation. He chose $20,000 and a clear conscience over $600,000 and a lifetime of looking over his shoulder. And whether you think that's smart or foolish says more about you than it does about him. But here's the beautiful part. 7 years after a theft. 7 years after a case went cold. 7 years after everyone assumed the money was gone forever. A working man doing a working job cracked it wide open. Not by brilliance, not by investigation, but by accident, by being in the exact right place at the exact right moment and making the exact right call. The odds of that, astronomical. The impact of that, immeasurable. Because Justin's story isn't just about money. It's about proof. Proof that good people still exist. Proof that integrity still matters. Proof that when the cameras aren't rolling and the world isn't watching, some people still do the right thing. And that's a story worth sharing. So if this story moved you, if it made you think, if it reminded you that character counts, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel because we bring you true stories like this every single week. Stories of ordinary people and extraordinary moments. And share this video with someone who loves unbelievable true stories. Send it to a friend, post it, spread it, because stories like Justin's deserve to be told. Now here's my question for you, and I want to hear your honest answer in the comments. If you found $20,000 hidden in a wall, would you report it or would you keep it?